Well, morning guys. Weighed down by gear today, bringing two systems, the A7II and the Sony A1. So yeah, we're carrying on the comparison between the beginner system and the advanced pro system today with the Sand Martin at Blashford Lakes. The last evening I came out, it was extremely sunny and it was actually very difficult beginner wildlife photography conditions, because I ended up having to set +3 positive compensation for birds in flight. It's the Sand Martins, absolutely incredible. But today hopefully we've got a more neutral sky and it should be a bit clearer as to what we're doing. So what am I expecting from today with the comparison? Well, with an overcast conditions, it's the f-stop factor which comes into play. We'll shoot both lenses wide open, but the 200 to 600 will be wide open at 6.3, and the 600mm f4 will be wide open f4. So there's a couple of stops difference there, and in these overcast conditions that does make a difference, and that is partly why you pay the big money. So we're on to the A7II, and we've got on the lens, we've limited the focus range from 10 meters to infinity, and we've got the steady shot auto on the actual lens barrel. Then we've got the 5-axis inbuilt stabilization, and we're just trying to pick the birds off. Obviously we pre-focus on the wall area, and when the birds come in or leave, we let off a quick burst of 5 frames per second using back button focus, wide open at f6.3, and yeah, and it's great. And we're on auto ISO, so all we have to worry about is the shutter speed, and in this case we've set 2,000th of a second, but again this may go up. The light is a little bit lower at the moment, so we're getting an ISO of 1250, which on this full frame A7II with the better dynamic range and the full frame sensor, you're not getting a bad image. So yeah, awesome. But yeah, it's lovely when they flutter around just in front of the nest hole. That's what we really like, when they get confused as to where the other birds are, because we're pre-focused on the nest, so the lens really doesn't have to do much work to acquire the focus of the subject, and with the stabilization we can really work around the subject. Of course 5 frames per second is a lot different to 30 frames per second, but you know, it's great. We've got a lot to work with. And of course another factor that comes into play is the buffer on this. We've only got so much of a we can only take so many shots, but as you can see, I'm starting to fill the buffer already. I shouldn't think, well, I know this camera hasn't shot as many shots before. Unlike in the old film days when there was 36, obviously you had 36 shots and then you had to change a roll. I mean, this is one of the advantages of digital, but now we just got to worry about the buffer. And yeah, anyway, the birds are giving us a break, so the A7II can catch up. But yeah, I'll show you some results of that last little frenzied melee. Oh, they're out again, they're in again. So yeah, we love them. So yeah, repeat again, wide open, f6.3, 1/2000th of a second. ISO 1000, the light's improved slightly. Yeah, birds are just hovering near the nest, so we'll get them hovering. And obviously, most of these shots we'll just chuck away, but some, you know, hopefully are keepers. Anyway, yeah, I'll show you the keepers, the ones that are in focus. So we've got the optimal stabilisation, because we're all over the place, possible with this combination, on the lens barrel and the 5-axis in-body stabilisation. Yeah, so this is a good test of everything really. Perch bird mode, the only thing you have to worry about is the shutter speed. So I vary between 500th of a second using the wheel on the back of the A7II and 500th of a second, and it's just a question of pressing your focus button and trying to nail them in the middle of the frame. I mean, invariably you're going to miss quite a lot, but the advantage of a full frame is that you could get a reasonable image in one portion of the frame, whereas a crop sensor camera, unless you nail it in the middle, you're probably not going to get your subject. We're having really good fun here. Ooh, got a heron. Now, can this camera pick the heron up as it comes into focus? Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, managed to get the heron there, hopefully. Just about had enough speed of focus acquisition. Oh, it's being chased off by another heron there. Gone over the other side. Anyway, yeah, it's great fun. I mean, this is the fun with a set subject like this, because it's not going anywhere and they keep coming in and out, so that's great. And the light level's good, but not overpowering like the other night. So I only managed to get silhouettes the other night with the A7II, but still some quite nice silhouettes. You basically you pick up the flight pattern of where they're coming in and pick them off accordingly with these San Martins. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the difficulties obviously with a beginner camera is the focus speed. Obviously this is not focusing as fast as the A1 would. I mean, the A1 literally would just not miss, whereas I'm sure many of these are misses. They fly quickly, rapidly into the nest area, and obviously it's very difficult to pick them up, but it is possible once you get your eye in and practice. So this is a great subject to practice on. Oh, it's tricky, and that's the fun. You know, if it was easy we wouldn't bother. It's great, but yeah, no, it's really tricky. So yeah, you can mess around all day. And this is the thing, if you get too many blurry images in flight and you don't like it, just stick to the static shots near the nest site. They don't often perch anywhere else except for the actual nest site. So yeah, and the only downside is the nest site is a little bit pre-manufactured. It is a bit of a concrete. It's not exactly a natural sandbank, but still, yeah, it's not bad. And yeah, again, f6.3 as opposed to f4. The f4 does narrow the depth of field and blur out the sandbank slightly better than f6.3, so you should see a difference there. Yeah, so as a beginner, it's best just not to get frustrated. It's partly the equipment you use. You can't expect to get the same results with £3,000 worth of gear as £18,000 worth, but to be expected. And yeah, as long as you work within the limitations of the camera, you know, you're going to get some reasonable results. Amazing technology these days. I mean, that's what you have to remember. I mean, the days of film, long gone, and now you get multiple opportunities. And indeed, that's what I would do. I wouldn't set this for wildlife on anything other than 5 frames per second, I think, because of the possibility of getting one shot that's really good, sharp, in frame, in the focus. So yeah, if you shoot small bursts, I mean that's what we do with the A1. You'll be amazed what you can get, even in flight. If you capture it, you've got enough shutter speed. It's a question of whether the autofocus will keep up with it in the Sony A2. But it's still an amazing camera, and yeah, I mean there are other alternatives. Birds in flight, I mean I would recommend on a Nikon system, I'd go for the 300mm PF if you could run to that, f4, and the D500 Nikon. That was a superb combination I used. That would capture birds in flight quite well. Now the Canon system, I'm not so au fait with the Canon system, but I do know the 400mm f5.6 is an absolute all-time classic, and I know people are still using that lens today. So yeah, anything similar to the A7II in the Canon range with that 400mm, that would be a very good, possibly under £1,000 combination for bird photography. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it's amazing what you can get these days. So yeah, just keep your eyes open at your local camera shop. You don't have to buy really expensive gear these days.